Good morning, everyone. It's Sean from STK Markets. Today, we've just jumped off the line with Mike Hudson. We're now here with Tony Adcock, the chairman of Tungsten Metals Group. Obviously, there's been a lot of change, which we see within TME and the Chinese, and quite rightly, the rest of the global market thinking tungsten could be the next cab off the rank with trade restrictions coming out of China. This has affected our IPO in a positive way, which I'll speak to Tony to. Tony, thanks for your time this Sunday morning. It is a very busy time at the moment, but thank you for giving up your Sunday free time.
My pleasure, Sean.
As I was saying, we've just seen XXG's share price explode along with sensational results and a potential big exploration target, as we've just discussed. But the Tungsten Metal Group, the tailwinds coming through in tungsten from your trading partners who we've met with in the last week, the door knocks have been deafening. People have been ringing the IPO doorbell. And they're not your typical fund managers, which we have had significant interest in from Southeast Asia to a potentially 20% of the book as the cornerstone. But we've had to pivot for a month or pause for a month just so we can get more time for due diligence. And can you just speak to why this has happened? And it's actually an exciting thing. Generally, when you pivot or pause an IPO, it can be negative. But in this case, it's highly positive because of who we're actually talking to.
Yeah. Good morning, Sean. Yeah, thanks. Look, first of all, I might start with an apology to those who wanted us to close the IPO sooner. We've moved it out by 3 or 4 weeks simply because of global dynamics. You saw as recently as last night the head of MI6 and the head of the CIA say in London that the globe was in the most precarious position since the Cold War. And as you say, with the Chinese announcement of restricting exports on critical minerals and so on, we felt that discussions that we had started with debt providers and equity providers, we wanted to allow them a little bit more time to come back to us on their views on going forward, because the earlier closing date hadn't allowed some serious players around the globe, particularly in Japan and Germany, to really have a good look at this. And suddenly the global politics had changed with the China announcement and with the, as I said, the head of MI6 and the CIA. And suddenly they've refocused on, stockpiles are low. We need to build our stockpiles. TMG are the only producer of more than 500 tons per annum outside of China and Russia. And in my view, that makes our IPO much more compelling because we've got this window of opportunity to move forward. So as I said, Sean, apologies to those, but I think this is much more exciting.
I think from the meetings I've been in, Tony, and I've seen firsthand that particularly in Western Europe, in Germany in particular, we're also looking at other countries there and in Southeast Asia and Japan, that the need for them to have this product and to lock in the supply. I mean, we're fortunate we've locked in our supply agreement, so we've got the product and the recycled material to sell. But our product to come out of the gates, a lot of investors have asked us, can you get offtakes? Can you do this? And I'll tell you what, it's like there's a big sale on at Harvey Norman with 99% off, and there's a big queue down the street because the larger trading houses and consumers of the ferrotungsten that we sell, they're knocking on the door. They're sending emails from people that I've known for years that are in the tungsten market in producing the raw product or the concentrate. They've got long-term relationships with them. They're reaching out to us, asking how can we get access to the product. So Tony, for people that have just turned in, can you just give us a rundown of why tungsten is so important?
Sean, it's the single most important critical mineral that's available to us. It's as simple as that. It's a mineral of the highest economic importance. It's beyond lithium, it's beyond antimony and so on. And the reason it's so important is because it's in everything. It's in your mobile phone, it's in your ballpoint pen, it's in the construction industry, it's in the transport industry, it's in the mining industry, oil and gas, anything that's strengthened steel or super alloys. So for example, wind turbines, jet engine turbines. In the defense industry, it's very, very important simply because of its high resistance to melting, because it's stronger than pretty well everything. TMG is lucky in the sense that our plant is outside the biggest suppliers to the world in the past, which has been China and Russia. Russia is clearly on the nose, and China is rebuilding its stocks, but it's also, as you saw with the antimony announcement, China is also restricting exports of critical minerals and rare earths. So we're in a great position because our factories in Vietnam's low sovereign risk. So sure, China and Russia produce 90% of the world's FEW, of ferrotungsten. We produce the other 10%. We're outside China and Russia. That makes us a safe bet to deal with. And as we said earlier, we're getting the calls, every day to provide that. We can produce up to 4,000 tons a year.
We're looking at a situation where people in the industry are talking to us about trade finance and talking to us about equity. And unfortunately, you've got those levels of management in these trading houses and off-takers that they can't just go one or two rungs up the food chain to get to the investment case. It's a completely different department. And now we're coordinating with themselves to look at potential investments, and I'm talking plural, into the IPO. And unfortunately, that just takes a little bit longer than your typical fund manager who's got the funds ready to deploy, who we have had success with in Southeast Asia. We always thought we would, but we just need a longer for those trading houses. And generally, when you look at these strategic investments from an investment perspective, they're not there to come in and make 30, 40% when the share price goes up. They want that cornerstone relationship. They want that investments. So they've got access to the offtake. So personally, having invested close to 200,000 into the pre-IPO myself, I'm hugely excited that these investors will sort of sit in there, be locked away, and less supply on the sell side creates, or hopefully there's that demand there, and the share price just goes up. So I think it is a very positive thing for investors, the type of strategic partners we are now talking to.
Yeah, look, we're in discussion. We're in fact in advanced discussions with several strategic partners who, want long-term relationships. You got to remember that our assets in Asia, even though we're an Australian company, and in Asia you look to long-term relationships. They're very important. So it's about building trust, which we've done. As I said, we're in advanced discussions on trade finance. That's the real reason we pushed back the IPO close date. With a combination of trade finance and the equity that we're looking for, I think we're in a very strong position. It allows us to do more production runs. It allows us to provide tungsten, on market to specific off-takes, if you like. And as you intimated then, we're getting calls every day from different parts of the world seeking our tungsten. So I think global dynamics have certainly, that shift in global dynamics right now, that paradigm shift is probably working to our advantage.
100% it is. We've seen other stocks in the antimony space either double, go up 37%. There's been a lot of growth there, and the tungsten group is fortunate that, it is unfortunate that tungsten can happen. It is a real security threat to those Western countries. But the reality is, when we're in discussions with the strategic investors, you can't keep going back to the ASX and asking for more time. And that's the powerful thing in terms of the closing negotiation. We've given them those extra 4 weeks that they needed to get across this, because unfortunately the antimony story came out after a week or so after we'd opened the IPO. So it was a week after that we really started getting into the serious DD. But there is not an infinite amount of time to conclude these negotiations. So, and they're very well aware of that. A lot of these, our partners or potential partners, have invested in ASX listed companies before, have invested in listed companies overseas before, and they know the rules of the exchanges. So one good thing is, unlike other investments where they can drag on for 9 to 12 months, they don't have that luxury, and this is a commodity that they can see they want access to. So the goalpost is certainly there. The finish line is drawn in the sand, and I don't think it'll be moved again. And let's hope that we can give another update in the next 10 to 14 days, and hopefully let people know that we've got these deals signed, and we're announcing a closing date and looking forward to listing in October.
Yeah, well, Sean, what I might add to that, because that's this little window of opportunities that actually allowed us to talk to the New World Metals Conference in Melbourne next week, and also I'm spending a couple of days with the land forces, Australian land forces, in Melbourne this week, and really all the major defence contractors from around the world are going to be in Melbourne. So, we'll be talking to procurement guys around the use of tungsten in defense. Anything that basically strengthens super alloys or steel is on the table.
It's a significant coincidence that we're running this IPO and
Yeah.
you've got this massive tailwind from China. You've got these conferences right at our doorstep when we're doing the IPO, talking about this critical mineral that is tungsten and ferrotungsten. Yeah, we'll definitely be keeping everyone updated, but this is a positive looking for those strategic investors that just lock up that stock. And like Southern Cross, we've got some very good investors there that see the long term. You can see what's happened with that share price. It's very well supported. And that's what we want for our investors with Tungsten. We want to make money for the investment.
Yeah.
We want the long-term relationships where this thing can just start printing money as soon as we get the trade finance and the equity. And we've got a great investment that's cash flow positive. So, Tony, I know it's Sunday. Thank you very much for your time and
Thank
look
you,
forward to
Sean.
speaking to you tomorrow when we're in more of these meetings. Thank you so much.
We're ready to go. We're the go-to tungsten company. So thank you, guys.
I'll tell you what, Tony, one thing I will say, it is 24/7 at the moment. We're doing very strange hours with the Germans, getting them coordinated, getting with the Japanese.
Yeah.
Japan, Japan is easier than Europe, but it's very early starts, very late finishes. Zoom's going all around the world. We've had Switzerland, France, Germany, and Japan on the calls on Friday. So, yeah, very many time zones. And thankfully, everyone's speaking English in this case, so we don't have to have
Well,
interpreters.
it's an exciting opportunity, Sean. I think that's the main thing. And, we just want to make sure that investors understand and that it is an exciting opportunity and come in at an opportune time.
Thanks, Tony. I'll let you go. Take
Thanks,
care.
mate.